Hello guys, this is a review of the movie The Perks of Being a Wallflower, one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie stars Ezra Miller as Patrick, Emma Watson as Sam, and Logan Lerman as Charlie. Everybody else involved, Mae Whitman, Paul Rudd, everybody did an amazing job. Let me tell you what the movie's about. We're gonna get into the fun details soon after. The movie follows Charlie, who's a very shy teenager. He's starting his freshman year of high school, and he's very scared, to say the least. He doesn't have any friends. The one that he had, I believe his name was Michael, shot himself a few months back. He didn't even leave a note. So what Charlie does to kind of escape from that or manage it is he writes to a friend, not anybody in particular, it's just friend. He was also very good friends with his aunt, but there's a huge problem with that, is that his aunt actually abused him as a child, and you don't really see that clearly. Like nobody knows it until the end, but they do kind of foreshadow. They do use very subtle, I don't want to say like camera techniques. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of awkward, but that's looking back, in retrospect, because when you're first watching it, I didn't really pick up on it. Maybe some of you have, especially if you've read the novel by Stephen Chbosky. I hope I pronounce his name right. I always do. I know that a lot of people actually read the novel and then they watched the movie. I never read it in high school, so I don't know. But yeah, and he actually becomes friends with seniors. Patrick, who on the first day of school made fun of the carpentering teacher, or I think he's a carpentering teacher. And he becomes friends with him. They actually meet at a football game where Patrick is cheering at the top of his lungs for the players, and later you'll find out why. Spoilers ahead, by the way. There's always spoilers in my reviews. That's nothing new. He goes over, he says, "Oh hey, so-and-so, I remember you." It's like, "Oh, I remember you, I'm gonna have a seat." And then he goes over, he sits next to him, and then Sam comes along. Sam is the sister of Patrick, but they're step brothers, because Sam's dad was a butthole towards Sam's mother, so they separated, and then Sam's mom moved in with Patrick's dad, so they're brothers and only a few weeks apart, born a few weeks apart. Anyway, I think from the get-go it's safe to assume that Charlie falls for Sam. And a fun fact, I guess everybody knows, Emma Watson really worked on the American accent for this movie. She had to be American, and she did a very good job. I remember watching an interview where she said that one of the hardest things for her to pronounce was the Olive Garden. And I could totally relate because I'm Mexican, so I know where she's coming from. Anyway, they take him under their wing. They're very nice to him. They become really good friends. They introduce him to other friends. They find out about Charlie's past. So they are even extra nice to him, because they realize that, all the hardships that he's had to overcome. And there's a particular scene while at a party. Well, I had to talk a lot about this scene because it's kind of like the real introduction of the characters, more than just the superficial side of them, but most intimate parts of the characters come into play during this time. So Patrick is actually in the bedroom with the football player that belonged to the team that he was watching while he was cheering at the top of his lungs, like I said earlier. And Charlie walks in on them, but he's high. I think they gave edibles. So yeah, And they're like, Charlie, you can't say anything. He's not out of the closet. Like, nobody knows. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure, it's fine. And then they go downstairs, and Sam made Charlie a milkshake. He's drinking it. And while she was making the milkshake, she was talking to Charlie. And Charlie told her about, among other things, about what had happened to his friend. And so Sam tells her, Patrick, and they have a toast in his honor, and he tells him, this is why this is important. I thought nobody noticed me. And Patrick's like, you're a wallflower. The perks of being a wallflower. Anyway, after that, their friendship keeps on growing. They attend the Rocky Horror Picture Show, recreation. I've attended a couple myself, and it's a lot of fun. If you haven't, I totally suggest. First of all, I probably am guessing that you haven't watched the original movie. Watch it. It's totally worth it. It's amazing. I have to review it sometime soon. And if you have but haven't attended the actual live shows, you should, because they're awesome. They're just as fun as they make it out to seem. They make it out to be in the movie, sorry. And what happens next? There's this one very tricky point outside of the Rocky Horror Picture Show theater where Mae's character, who's a Buddhist, and she's also very outspoken and very mean, one could say. She invites Charlie to a dance where the girl actually is supposed to invite the guy, and he accepts. And when they come back, they this is a very, very funny scene. I don't even know how to set it up. They basically end up doing it, and then the Buddhist, I'm gonna call her the Buddhist like Charlie's dad. The Buddhist is like, I just can't believe it, Charlie. I can't believe that you're my boyfriend. And he's like, what? And when she invited him over to the dance, that's another funny scene. She's like, yeah, so I saw you, and I'm just sick of dating macho guys, so I'd like to give it a try with you. And he's like, okay, I guess. So they become boyfriend and girlfriend, even though he loves Sam. And Sam actually was the first person. I missed this very important scene. Sam is talking to Charlie. They had worked on the SATs. I might be going a little bit forward and a little bit back at random times, but I'm just kind of giving you the gist of it in a nutshell, and just at random times. It's never the same to hear somebody review something than it is to watch the actual product. So I always take it that you're gonna, if you like it from what you hear here, that you're gonna watch it yourself. Or if you already watched it, then you're just coming back to hear somebody's very humble opinions. Anyway, they're talking, and Charlie confesses that he has never even kissed a girl. So she's like, hey, Charlie, I know you know that I have a boyfriend, but I want to make sure that the first girl you ever kiss loves you. And so she gives him a kiss, and that's so nice. Anyway, back to what I was saying about the Buddhist and Charlie, their boyfriend and girlfriend. He doesn't know how to break up with her. He leaves her on the phone for hours, and like her mom's like, she's on the phone, you need to break up with her. He doesn't even listen to what she has to say because she keeps talking and talking and talking. There's a very funny scene where he's like, I hate the fact that she calls me like as soon as I get home, when nothing at all has happened besides the ride home from, on the bus from school. And he actually finds the worst time to tell her that she's not the one, and it's, I believe, accidental. They're playing a truth or dare game. He's imagining how to break up with her when suddenly Patrick dares Sam to kiss the prettiest girl in there. And there's a very funny scene where he's like, and notice that this is said by Patrick, notice that I charitably said girl, because let's get real, I smoke all you bitches. He looks at other girls. It's really funny. Patrick's character is amazing. amazing. And he kisses Sam after Patrick dares him to do that. And logically, the Buddhist is very hurt. And they go out. Patrick pulls Charlie out and explains to him that there's history. It doesn't really have anything to do, aside from the fact that he was very rude and everybody was like taken back by what he said. There's history where Sam would take the Buddhists' boyfriends and stuff like that, and then there's a whole backstory to Sam herself where she would get drunk and sleep with guys, and she doesn't really value herself, has very low self-esteem and that type of thing. Apart from the fact that since she was kind of on another trail, we could say, she didn't focus on her studies, so she wanted to get into a good university, but she couldn't because her SAT scores were very, very low. And Charlie, like I said earlier, helps her out with that. And we discover before the big kiss, was it before the big kiss? I think it was right before the big kiss, where she tells him, that her first kiss was from a guy who would go to her house all the time. And he's like, was that your first boyfriend? And she said, no, that was my dad's boss. So we know right there and then that she was also molested as a child. And that's something that Charlie has in common with her, but does not tell her because he doesn't tell anybody about it. Anybody. And they stop speaking to him, and he starts his mental, I don't know what they're called. I don't know the proper diagnosis, and I don't want to say something inaccurate, but I would say trauma. Let's just call it trauma because I don't know the actual medical term, and I don't want to like be insensitive or say something that's not. It's not a big deal. It is a movie. You understand that, but let's just call it a trauma for the heck of it. His trauma is getting bad day after day. It keeps unraveling, and it's making him do think bad things about himself, but he doesn't tell anybody. And after that, Patrick one of the other friends from the group is speaking to Charlie and tells him, you don't know about Patrick, the other guy's dad found them together, so he beat him up. And so he goes to school, he tries to talk to Patrick, but Patrick dismisses him. He's like, now, Charlie. And he notices that the other guy has a bunch of bruises. And while he's walking, this happened in the cafeteria, while he's walking Patrick with his lunch in his hands, one of the football guy's friends puts his leg and trips him. And he drops the tray with a whole bunch of food. And Patrick goes over to his boyfriend and is like, you're not going to do anything about it? He's like, what are you talking about? He obviously puts a face in front of everybody else because he's not ready to come out. Nobody knows it. But Patrick was just insanely offended by what he had done. Well, not what he had done, but what he didn't do, in spite of... It's because I don't even know how to say this, because I could get into so much detail about this, but I think I'll leave it for another movie, because I have plenty of movies where I could really talk and go into detail, because this movie, while it does deal with the whole LGBTQ, their whole well, yeah, I'm just getting too distracted. Anyway, they get into a fight because he calls him an offensive word. The football player calls Patrick a very offensive word. I'm sorry about that, but I'm having this inner dialogue in my head where I'm like, should I go into depth on these things, or should I just leave them out? And I think that this movie, I'm gonna leave some things out. Watch it for yourself, and then come and comment, and I'll tell you in the comments, I promise. Anyway, yeah, they get into a fight, and Sam tries to help him out because, you know, she loves her stepbrother, but they push her away, and Charlie gets so mad, he goes there and punches everybody, and then can't remember what happened. And remember that at this point, nobody's talking to Charlie, at least not the girls. And then Sam waits for him outside. The football guy actually thanks him while they're in the office. They're like, hey, thank you for separating us. And Sam's like, you want to know what you did? You saved my brother's life. Thank you. So they accept them back into the group. And the Buddhist actually has a new boyfriend. She goes over to Charlie. She's like, I know that she puts her hand on his shoulder. This may be difficult for you, but I'm dating this guy. He's in college, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, okay. It's like, yeah, as long as you're happy. Because he never really wanted to be his boyfriend in the first place. Then there are so many things. Like, I could go like scene by scene by scene, but then what good does that do? It's kind of, I'm just going off like I usually do in these reviews by the first scene that pops in my head. Let's just go all the way to the end so that I could give my final thoughts, because the video, if it goes over 30 minutes, which I doubt, but if it does, it turns off and then I don't know where I left off and the quality goes down, etc. So at this point, Sam is graduating. Sam, Patrick, and all of their friends except for Charlie, because he's the only freshman. They're all graduating, and Sam just found out that her boyfriend actually was cheating on her this whole time, and Charlie feels like that's just wrong. That shouldn't have happened. They all leave to college, and he stays behind, and his trauma gets even worse. He's walking back to his house and is sweating. Then he's sitting in front of his desk and he's crying. He's like, stop crying. Such an emotional scene. Totally relatable. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'll get to that. Oh, pray the Lord I don't forget about the Smiths at the end. So he calls his sister, and his sister tells her friends to call the cops. They manage to save him, and he wakes up at a hospital where he confesses what his aunt did to him. His parents didn't know that, obviously. They go over to him, they hug him, they cry with him, and it is implied that he's getting better. By the time that Sam and Patrick come to visit, they're like, can Charlie come out to play? They go over to eat at the diner that they usually ate at, I think the Olive Garden, and which is a restaurant, I think, not a diner. Same thing. They're like, oh, you should check it out. You know, at college, on campus, there's this food place that you recommended that's really good. And he's like, yeah. And Patrick does one of my favorite jokes of his. He's like, I'm sorry, but Charlie has a breakdown scheduled for October. It's really funny. And there's a scene early in the movie when they're driving back. They hear Heroes by David Bowie, but they don't know who it's by, because obviously they didn't have the technology that we have now. I think Shazam it's called. I don't have it, but a lot of people do, where it could recognize the songs. They didn't have it back then, so they were trying to find it this whole time, and Sam actually found it in the end. So they go out and they drive in a tunnel, and they open like the rooftop, or no, they didn't have a rooftop. They go through the back window and stand there, open their arms kind of like Titanic style, and let the wind blow through their bodies. Very cool scene while they hear the good music, as they call it. And that's when the scene ends. And Charlie says something that every single time I watch it is just so sad. He's we will become somebody's parents. Once we turn 17, we forget we were 16, but tonight, this is us. We are here and we are infinite. Says, I'm paraphrasing. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ending to the movie. That scene is just so strong. I left a lot of things out, but I had to get to my final thoughts. Because of this movie, it introduced me to Asleep by the Smiths, and therefore the Smiths themselves. I'm Mexican, so I was never, like I said, really exposed to these type of genres. Nobody in my family listens to it, so it was such a treat for me to discover it. Such an iconic band, amazing. I have, behind there, I have a few albums, and I listen to them constantly, and I cannot be grateful enough to this movie. I discovered Logan Lerman. I'm not really sure how this happened, but I'm like a very big follower of Logan Lerman. I remember watching him in Percy Jackson with Alexandra Daddario. I'm also a very big follower of her. And then Ezra Miller also surprised me a lot, and I have another movie that I reviewed. It's called We Need to Talk About Kevin. Amazing. But I think the real reason why I watched this movie was because of Emma Watson, if I'm not mistaken. I was like, hey, fresh out of Harry Potter, let's go. And I was pleasantly surprised. Well, actually, the first time that I watched this movie, I remember thinking, it's alright, it's good. I watched it around 2 o'clock, sun was out. Not a good time to watch movies, but yeah, I just kind of felt like it was okay. And then a few days went by. I remember watching it with my mom, and then I was like, I want to watch it again. And then, it was alright, let me watch it again. And you know, when you watch a movie and you're like, even though you think it's okay, but you want to watch it again and again, then it just transforms into a huge thing, which was the case for this one. I think it was around 2014 when I watched it. Maybe 2013. I'm not sure, but it was around that time. It wasn't fresh, like out of the theaters. I remember watching it like a year or two after, and I'm so glad I did. Like I said, it's amazing. I'd really love to hear what you thought of it, because this movie means a lot. It kind of captures an epoch of adolescence. We all go through it, and we all love it, we all hate it. Everybody has different experiences, but it's just it's a good movie. Like I said, I left a lot of parts out. I was kind of having, you guys saw me having a little crisis in my head, like, what do I say, what do I not say, like, what do I, because this movie, like, it just has so many things that I could talk about, but I cannot go for 30 minutes, unfortunately. But yeah, that's basically what it is for today. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Check it out if you haven't. I really recommend it. I would give it a rating of oh, I forgot the criticism. One of the things that I could critique of this movie is that it wasn't raw enough. It wasn't harsh enough. I would have loved for it to have a little more of an edge. Like, you know, if the blade was a little bit sharper. Because there, I feel very heavy, I know, very heavy topics. Very difficult topics. Very loving scenes, very disheartening scenes, but it doesn't cut you deep enough. Metaphorically speaking, I think that they should have gone with perhaps a rated R rating, and that would have made the world of difference. This is more like mellowed down. This is more for teenagers, and that's good because, you know, it's more accessible. But at the same time, me being me, I would have loved for them to be a little bit more upfront, a little more clear, and less restrained in that regard. But yeah, other than that, I would give it a rating of 9 out of 10. I think in its category, it's amazing. You won't regret it. Thank you for watching.